The story of us, the one Alex told me, was a fairy tale. The story he told everyone else was a tragedy. He was the hero in both. When I met him, he was a perfect composite of every good thing I thought a man could be. Charming but not slick, confident but not arrogant, and blessed with a sad, soulful gaze that made you want to heal a wound you couldn't see. He told me early on that he had just gotten out of a bad relationship. He didn't offer details, and I didn't press. I just saw him as a man with a heavy past, and my love, I believed, could be his future. The first time he mentioned her name, Sophia, it was with a heavy sigh. We were a few months in, sitting in a dimly lit restaurant, and his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, and a shadow passed over his face. He quickly silenced it and turned it face down. "Sorry," he said, forcing a smile. It's my ex." My heart did a familiar little pang of jealousy, but I said nothing. She can't let go," he continued, shaking his head. "It's been almost a year. I've blocked her number, but she gets new ones. She makes new email addresses. It's a lot." That night, he told me the story of Sophia. He painted a portrait of a woman who was beautiful and brilliant, but deeply unstable. He described a love that had started passionately, but had slowly curdled into obsession and paranoia on her part. He spoke of her wild accusations, her screaming fits, her possessiveness. "I tried to get her help," he said, his voice full of a tragic, weary sincerity. "I loved her, but she refused. She thought I was the one with the problem." He was the victim, the man who had loved too much and had been punished for it. I listened, my heart aching for him. I wrapped my arms around him, feeling a fierce, protective urge. I would be his safe harbor after the storm. I would be the woman who was not crazy. Over the next few months, the ghost of Sophia became a third person in our relationship. Alex would show me screenshots of her texts, sent from anonymous numbers. They were frantic, rambling, filled with accusations and desperate pleas. "You can't just throw me away. She'll never love you like I did. You think you can just replace me?" I read the words, and they painted a clear picture of an unhinged woman. I never saw what he wrote to her. He always said he didn't reply. That engaging was the worst thing you could do. Then the stalking began. A strange car would be parked on our street for an hour before driving away. We'd get hang-up calls in the middle of the night. Once, a bouquet of dead flowers was left on our doorstep with no note. Each incident was another brushstroke on his portrait of Sophia. He would react not with anger, but with a profound, exhausted sadness. "I'm so sorry, baby," he'd say, pulling me close. "I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. This is my mess." His apology was a clever trick. It made me feel like we were a team, a united front against this external threat. It never once occurred to me that he was the one inviting the chaos. My sympathy for him was a wall so high and so thick, I couldn't see the truth on the other side. He used the situation to draw me closer, to make me more dependent on him. He'd call to check on me if I was home alone, asking if I'd seen the strange car again. He encouraged me to share my location with him on my phone, just for safety. My world, which had once felt open and free, began to shrink, bordered by the fear he had so expertly cultivated. And I was grateful for his protection. I saw him as my guardian, my protector, never realizing he was the one who had locked all the doors. The woman I was before I met Alex would have seen the red flags. She was independent, cynical, a woman who trusted her own instincts above all else. But he had been so masterful, so subtle in his campaign, that he had dismantled that woman piece by piece, replacing her with a version that was softer, more pliant, a version that believed in him more than she believed in herself. The story he told was so compelling, and I wanted so badly to be the happy ending. The accidental meeting, the moment the entire fictional world he had built began to tremble, happened on a rainy Tuesday. I was in a small independent coffee shop I rarely visited, trying to get some work done. I was waiting for my order when I heard her name. A woman was at the counter, talking to the barista. The usual for Sophia, she said, smiling. I glanced over. The woman was beautiful, with dark, intelligent eyes and a calm, self-possessed air. She was nothing like the frantic, wild-eyed creature I had imagined. This was a woman who looked like she had her life together. She took her coffee and sat at a small table near the window. I couldn't help but stare. It had to be a coincidence, but my curiosity was a powerful magnetic force. I found myself walking towards her table. I didn't even know what I was going to say. "Excuse me," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "This is a really weird question, but is your name Sophia?" She looked up, a little surprised. "Yes," she said. "Do I know you?" "No," I said quickly. "It's just, I think you used to date my boyfriend, Alex." The change in her expression was instantaneous. The calm warmth vanished, replaced by a look of such profound weariness and pity that it took my breath away. And the pity, I realized with a jolt, was directed at me. "Oh," she said, her voice soft. "You're the new one. Let me guess. I'm crazy, right? I'm obsessed. I'm stalking him." The words were not angry. They were flat, exhausted, the words of a woman who had been through this before. I stood there speechless. "She's shown you the texts, I'm sure. The frantic, rambling ones. But did he show you what he wrote to get those responses?" She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She didn't hesitate. She unlocked it and handed it to me. "Scroll up," she said. "Read the whole conversation, not just the parts he wants you to see." My hands were trembling as I took the phone. I started to scroll. There were her texts, the ones I recognized, but now they had context, and the context was him. His messages, the ones he claimed he never sent, were a masterclass in psychological torture. He would send her a message out of the blue. "I was just thinking about that time we went to the beach. I've never been happier than I was then." When she would reply, confused, he would turn cold. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's just hard. My new girlfriend is great, but it's not the same." He would dangle the bait, then snatch it away, over and over. He would tell her he missed her. Then, when she responded with vulnerability, he would accuse her of being obsessed and tell her to leave him alone. He was deliberately, methodically pushing her to the edge just so he could take a picture of her when she fell. I kept scrolling, my vision blurring with a sick, dizzying wave of understanding. I saw him describe me to her. "She's a nice girl, a little simple maybe, but she's stable. She takes care of me. It's what I need right now." He was reducing me to a utility, a simple, stable appliance he was using to recover from the drama he himself was creating. The car parked on our street? It was his friend, a man I'd met, whom he had paid to occasionally park there to fuel my paranoia. The dead flowers? He had sent them to himself. He had orchestrated every single event, every piece of evidence to create a narrative that made him the victim and turned two women who had never even met into enemies. I looked up from the phone, my face pale. "He told me you were a stalker," I whispered. "He told me I was a homewrecker," she replied, her voice grim. "He told me you pursued him, that you knew he was in a fragile state and you took advantage of him." We stared at each other for a long moment, two strangers in a coffee shop, connected by the same intricate, poisonous web. We were not rivals. We had never been rivals. We were just the before and after photographs of the same devastating crime. The man I loved didn't exist. He was a character, a fictional hero in a story where all the women were crazy. "What do we do?" I asked, the question hanging in the air between us. Sophia took a sip of her coffee, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of a smile on her face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated resolve. "First," she said, "you're going to come back to my apartment, and I'm going to show you everything. And then we're going to take him down." Sophia's apartment was the home of a sane person. It was neat, filled with books and plants, a stark contrast to the chaotic, paranoid world Alex had painted for her. Over the next 2 hours, she laid out the full story of their relationship, and it was like listening to a prequel of my own. He had used the same tactics on her, the same subtle dismissals, the same way of twisting her feelings into flaws. He had isolated her from her friends, convinced her she was emotionally unstable, and when she finally found the strength to leave him, he had weaponized her memory, recasting her as the obsessive villain. She had emails, voicemails, a mountain of evidence she had kept, not for a revenge, but to remind herself that she wasn't crazy. As I listened, my grief for the man I thought I loved was slowly being replaced by a cold, clarifying rage. We were not his victims. We were his project. He was a collector of broken women, and he was the one who broke them. "Why is he doing this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Because he's a narcissist," Sophia said, her voice devoid of emotion. "His entire sense of self is built on being the good guy, the hero. He can't just have a normal breakup. Someone has to be the villain. If he's not the victim, then he's just another guy who was bad at relationships, and his ego can't handle that." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of his deception settling around us. "We can't just let him get away with this," I said, the thought taking root and growing into a fierce, unshakable conviction. "He'll just do it again to someone else." "I know," Sophia said, "but what do we do? It's our word against his, and he's so damn good at telling his story." That's when the plan began to form. Sophia was right. We couldn't beat him by telling our story. We had to beat him by letting him tell his. He thrived on the drama of the crazy ex. He loved the role of the beleaguered hero. So, we decided to give him the performance of a lifetime. We were going to work together, in secret, to create a situation so perfectly calibrated to his narrative that he wouldn't be able to resist walking right into our trap. The plan was simple, but it required a level of emotional control that terrified me. I had to go back to him. I had to go back to our home and pretend that our meeting had never happened. I had to continue to play the part of the loving, trusting girlfriend, all while secretly communicating with Sophia, coordinating our attack. The next phase of the plan was to escalate Sophia's stalking, but this time it would be us in control. Sophia started by sending me a series of emails, which she blind copied to a new anonymous email address we had both created. The emails were a perfect imitation of her old frantic messages, but this time they were for a different audience. They were for him. "I know you're telling her lies about me. She's a fool if she believes you. You will never be free of me." I, in turn, would discover these emails and show them to Alex, my face a mask of fear and distress. His reaction was exactly what we predicted. He was triumphant. "See," he said, wrapping his arms around me, "this is what I'm talking about. She's completely unhinged. We need to do something about this." He was practically vibrating with a kind of dark, narcissistic glee. He was the hero again, and the drama was better than ever. Our goal was to push him into taking a concrete legal step. We knew he would never go to the police with fabricated evidence, but we realized he would be more than happy to go if I was the one filing the report. It would be the ultimate validation of his story, the new girlfriend so terrorized by the crazy ex that she was forced to involve the authorities. It would be a permanent official record of his victimhood. So, I played my part. I became more and more frightened. I told him I couldn't sleep, that I was afraid to be alone. I suggested that we should file a restraining order against her. His eyes lit up. "I think you're right," he said, his voice full of grave seriousness. "It's the only way to protect you."
We went to the police station together. He held my hand the whole time. He had a folder with him, filled with all the evidence he had been collecting. The screenshots of her texts, my notes about the strange car, a printout of the new emails Sophia had sent me. He presented it all to the officer with a quiet, heartbreaking dignity. He was the perfect, long-suffering victim. I sat beside him, playing the part of the terrified girlfriend, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I gave my statement, my voice trembling just enough. We filed a formal complaint for harassment and stalking against Sophia, based entirely on the evidence he had curated and the events he had orchestrated. As we walked out of the police station, he pulled me into a hug. "It's going to be okay now," he said. "We're safe." I felt like Judas. But I knew that the wheels of our own trap had just been set in motion. He had just handed us the weapon, and he had no idea that it was pointed directly at his own head. The next week was a strange, tense waiting game. An officer was assigned to the case and contacted Sophia to get her statement. This was the moment we had been waiting for. Sophia didn't deny anything. She calmly told the officer that yes, she had sent those emails. Then she said, "But I think you need to see the full context." She showed the officer the entire email chains, the entire text message histories. She showed him how Alex had been systematically provoking her for months. Then she dropped the first bomb. "And as for the recent escalation, you should know that his new girlfriend, Clara, has been aware of all of it. In fact, we've been working together." She showed the officer the emails from our secret, anonymous account where she and I had planned the entire operation. She showed him our communications, our strategy, our goal, to get Alex to file a false police report. The officer, a sharp, experienced detective, was suddenly very interested. The case had transformed from a simple harassment complaint into a potential criminal conspiracy to file a false report. Meanwhile, I was still at home, playing the part of the dutifully protected girlfriend. Alex was on top of the world. He was confident, relaxed, believing he had finally won. He talked about our future, about moving to a new city, about finally being free from the drama. He had no idea that his entire world was about to be turned upside down. The second bomb dropped a few days later. I found a small audio recorder in his desk drawer. It was a recorder Sophia had given me, one she had used to record some of their final abusive phone calls. But I pretended it was his. I confronted him, accusing him of recording me. It was a calculated risk, designed to make him feel a false sense of security, to make him believe that I was the one who was paranoid and spiraling, just as he had always wanted. He denied it, of course, with his usual calm, convincing sincerity. "Clara, my God," he said, his face a mask of hurt. "You think I would do that? After everything we've been through? Your paranoia is getting out of control. Sophia has really gotten into your head." "Then what is this?" I asked, holding up the recorder. "It's an old dictaphone I used for work years ago," he said, the lie coming so easily. "I haven't used it in forever. The fact that you would even think that is really worrying." That was the last piece we needed. The detective had advised us that a direct confrontation was the best way to get a confession. The next day, Alex was asked to come back to the station to clarify a few details in his statement. He went willingly, confidently. He probably thought they were about to arrest Sophia. I was already there, in another room, with Sophia. We listened through a speaker as the detective began to question him. Alex calmly recounted his story, the story of the crazy ex and the terrified new girlfriend. Then the detective changed his line of questioning. "So you're saying you had no contact with Sophia other than the harassing messages she sent you?" "That's correct," Alex said. The detective then read aloud the manipulative, baiting text messages Alex had sent to Sophia. Alex's confident tone faltered. That's taken out of context," he stammered. The detective then brought up the recent emails. "And your girlfriend, Clara, she was terrified by these emails."
Yes, Alex said she was a wreck. That's interesting, the detective said, because we have emails between Sophia and Clara planning for those emails to be sent. A long, dead silence. And then there's the matter of this. We have a recording of your conversation with Clara last night. He played the audio. He played the clip of Alex lying about the recorder, and then of him saying, "Sophia has really gotten into your head." The detective paused the tape. "The thing is, Mr. Harris," he said, his voice flat, "we had an expert analyze that recording, and it was made on the same device that Sophia used to record you over a year ago. It's her recorder, which means Clara must have gotten it from her, which means they have been in contact, which means your entire story, your entire complaint, is a lie. You didn't come here to report a crime. You came here to commit one." That was the end. The final crushing weight of his own lies. We didn't need to be there to see his face. We could hear the sound of his entire world collapsing in the silence. We had done it. We hadn't just told our story. We created a situation where he had no choice but to expose himself. We walked out of the police station together, into the sunlight. We didn't feel triumphant. We felt a quiet, profound sense of relief. The ghost that had haunted both of our lives was finally gone. Alex was charged with filing a false police report and fabricating evidence, crimes that would follow him forever. His reputation as the good guy was permanently shattered. Sophia and I are friends now, a real deep friendship forged in the fires of a shared trauma. We are not the crazy ex and the new girlfriend. We are just Clara and Sophia, two women who were told they were enemies, who were told they were unstable, who were told they were crazy, and who together proved that they were not. We took the story he tried to write for us, and we wrote our own ending. And in our ending, the hero wasn't the man. It was the women who refused to be silent anymore.